And here we go. We are live with the Women's International Music Network. This is our series we do live video podcasting called the Live Front and Center. I'm your host, Mickey Angeline. So stoked. We've actually been talking off air for quite some time, and I feel like we're like almost besties now. I've got in the studio here with me Grace Pettis, broadcasting all the way from Texas. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. I just figured out that like your acronym WIMN is like
Yes.
women. I just got that.
Yes.
That's so
Yep.
clever. I really
Thank
appreciate a
you.
good
Yep.
acronym.
Yep, that's right. That's the website, the women,
Brilliant.
THEWIMN.
Brilliant.
And yeah, so we invited you out because you have got a brand new single to talk about. You are a multiple award-winning songwriter. We're gonna touch on your music, on how you've survived through COVID, and lots of great things. So let's start off by letting those listening a little bit about who you are and how you got into music.
Sure, yeah. I'm Grace Pettis. It rhymes with lettuce. It's spelled differently. Um, I got into music. I've kind of always been into music. My dad is a musician going on, I don't know, 4 or 5 decades now. And yeah, I grew up around it, grew up around musicians. My mom plays as well. My brothers are musical. And I've been writing songs for as long as I could write anything down. And even before that, when I was 3 or 4, I'd walk around the house just making up songs about whatever I was doing and just kind of musically narrating my childhood. So it's just always been like a first language for me. Yeah.
And I can see that because like when I mentioned to you how when I first was researching on you before this interview, and the first thing that pops up is it mentions that you're a multiple award winner for songwriting. So I thought, all right, because as I've mentioned, I'm a sucker for music with actual positive, awesome, deep, provoking lyrical content, and your music is that.
Thank you. That's so nice. I love a good lyric. I'm all about it.
Yes. And so did you always start out with writing music, or did it start off like as poetry first? Like how did you know you had a knack for writing songs?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, I really think that songs are kind of like a language. So it's like learning a foreign language. It can be something that you can speak fluently, in song. And I think that lyrics, like words, are melodic. So, like when you ask a question, your voice goes up at the end. Like, what do you mean? So even our speech is melodic, and you know that when you hear poetry. Like poetry, the way that we recite poems is musical. And then the other side of that is that music is narrative, and music is a storytelling thing. So, when you hear like a minor chord, it doesn't just like represent sadness, like it evokes that in people all over the world, whatever culture you're from. And so I mean, there are obviously lots of like variations and different styles of music, but there are some things that like seem to be sort of universal. Rhythm, rhyme, melody, chords, and we have like, there's this experiment you can look up called the Buba Kiki effect, which is kind of a fun name. But
Say that again three
the
times fast.
Buba Kiki effect. It's
Okay.
like Bouba
Okay.
Kiki. And like it's an experiment you can do where one shape is like sort of a cloud shape. I just brought this up yesterday, I think. And the other one is like a spiky sort of um like a sea urchin or something shape,
Okay.
And they're next to each other, and the experiment is which one of these shapes is Booba and which one is Kiki.
Oh.
And which one would you think would be Booba and which one would you
Well,
think
you
would
would
be
think
Kiki?
booba is the cloud because booba sounds phonetically like
Yeah,
it's fluffy and round, and
right.
kiki sounds stabby.
Correct. So the thing is that like 80 to 90% or something like that of people all over the world in every culture, all ages and race, like get that right. And the reason is that like sounds are not arbitrary. Sounds convey meaning on like this really deep evolutionary level for us human animals. So, sounds are narrative, and sounds like sounds are storytelling in and of themselves. And like and lyrics are musical. So it's all kind of one vehicle, and everything works together, to kind of convey meaning and tell a story. And so in a lot of ways, to me, it's just like another language. And it's a language that we all really understand, and especially in America, like just like the kind of pop song DNA of like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. That's like, it's so deeply embedded in all of our different genres. There's so much stuff, and it's borrowed from all over the country. Like you have from like Ireland and Scotland and England, you have like this ballad tradition, which is just storytelling. So it's like, it's an A form, maybe with a refrain at the end. So think like Bob Dylan. Like
Okay.
the times they are a changing, and like every verse just like progresses the story, and then you
Yeah.
have a little refrain line at the end. That's like every Irish song is that. That's the ballad
Okay.
tradition. And then in Africa, you have call and response, right? And so the idea of a chorus is a thing that's static, that's communal, that everybody sings together. So you have a verse that like progresses a story that can be like more individual, and then you have a chorus that doesn't, where there isn't movement, that's static, where it's the same every time it comes around, and it's communal. And you put those things together, and it's just like magic, and you can communicate so much about the human experience just with those tools. So I just think songwriting is, I think it's magic.
I can see now why you won so many awards. Did you go to school studying this information? I mean, you spouted off 2 different countries so far, and knowing about their music and how their songs are composed and written.
I mean, I've read some books on it just on my own. I come from like a family of people that love songwriting, and so my dad and my mom, I think, both think a lot about it. My dad especially, like it's his job, and but there are only a couple schools in the country that have accredited songwriting programs.
Really?
Yeah, just a few. There's like, I mean, at least back when I was going to college,
Okay.
there was Belmont and Berkeley, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And everything else is like a classical musical education, which is great, but it's just a different thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah.
The focus being on
but then-
songwriting itself and
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of changing because, like, ever since Dylan won the, whatchamacallit, was it a Nobel Prize or something?
oh, yes,
For-
sorry.
Yeah, for songwriting. That treating it as if it was, like, a writing form, like a novel or a poem or something. So people are starting to think about it that way, but it's kind of a new way of thinking about popular songwriting. So.
Oh man. And in going into songwriting and songs, let's dive into your latest single that you just released, Landon.
Yeah.
And what inspired that song, and also the fact that you have the Indigo Girls on the track and how you managed that one. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I really don't know. Like, I don't know why they said yes. I can't figure it out. But the song, I'll start with the song. The song, speaking about like songwriting and music being a language, is, I come from a family of songwriters and people who like poetry, and so growing up, like, that just like, it was a thing that I was always doing as a kid. I was never not writing songs, even before I could write them down. It was like the first, I call it my first language. Like, I was singing before I could talk. My mom said I was trying to make singing noises, like, before I learned how to talk.
Oh.
So yeah, it's just kind of like, it's the way that I communicate. And when I had this experience with my best friend in high school, who, he's gay, and he came out after high school, and can I say cuss words on this? I don't know.
If you feel moved and it adds to it, go for it.
Okay, well, here's one where it's like, this is really the only word for it. Like, I fucked it up.
Oh,
There's not like another word for that.
I gotcha.
That really conveys like what it was, because we were in a small town, and there's not that many queer kids in a small town, or queer people in a small town, and
Or at least they're not open about it if there are.
or they're not open about
Yeah,
it. And
that's really what it is.
and it's a town of like 300 people. So
Oh, that's less than a
so-
high school. That's less than a grade school. That's not a
Right.
lot of people.
it's not a lot of people. So, well, and that's the town that I lived in. The town in the valleys where I went to high school, and that was a bigger town, like more of a city, but small city. But anyway, the point is, like, there just weren't a lot of people who he trusted to be himself, be his true self with. And when you kind of feel like these are the people that you can trust and be authentic with, and then those people, my job in that moment is to like listen and say, I love you, and I'm here for you, I'm on your side, and I didn't communicate that as much as, I think I probably said those things, but what I actually communicated was like, here's all the things I've been taught about being gay by pastors.
Oh no! And
Yeah.
wait, how old? How old are you both?
So 18.
Okay,
And
okay,
it's like, this is my best friend for like 4 years. And it's like,
yeah,
yeah, here's all the things that I learned in church about gay people. You know what I mean? Which it's like, even as I was like saying this stuff, I knew it was bullshit. Like I just knew as it was coming out of my mouth, but I didn't know why or how. And like, it took me, I was very devout, am still, and it took me a lot of years of kind of wrestling with my faith and just I had this feeling like this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that this person could be a sinner because this person is the best person I know.
right.
And if
Instead of seeing their heart, you're judging them for preconceived notions of what somebody is or isn't.
yeah, and it's kind of like, well, I know what the party line is on this, but this doesn't jive with like my actual experience of this person in life and like just my conscience, like and it's just like it was a disconnect, like a cognitive dissonance between what I had been taught and the person that I loved. And I think that this is the experience for a lot of straight people that come around, is like we don't come around until it matters because we have somebody that we really truly care about.
Yeah.
And so, and which is a shame, but that's that's my story. That's a lot of people's story.
And so Landon is the friend.
Landon is my friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I wrote him this song, and I spent like years working on it as I was sort of working with my own feelings and trying to figure out, what I thought or believed or felt or whatever. And I sent it to him because it just was like the kind of thing that I couldn't put into an email. I tried to email it, and I had apologized at this point, but I hadn't really I didn't feel like I had explained, like I wanted to be understood, and I wanted him to know how bad I felt about it and how much I loved him, and it just felt like I couldn't express that in another way. So I wrote him a song, and I was like, but it was not a song for stage or for anybody else. It was just for him.
For him, right? Because that's how you express yourself the best.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, I finally got this. I finally said this the way I want to say it. Like, and this is how I feel. It was like a love letter, basically.
And how did he respond to that?
He loved it.
Oh, yay.
It.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was great. And it was like a really healing thing for both of us. And we hadn't stopped being friends, but we had kind of drifted,
It happens.
It happened that
as the person who came out late, sometimes people can love you, but they just, it's the saying, Tupac has said it, I want you to eat, we're just not going to eat at the same table.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. It's like, for you and for him, it's like, I can still love her, but she's not seeing who I am and what I need. So we're just going to take this physical break and we'll figure this out where we can. And so you two are okay now?
Oh yeah, we're
Good.
really close again now, and
Good.
It's been this beautiful thing because we're both really different people than we were at 18, obviously, and
right.
So we kind of got to meet each other again, and become friends a second time, which is it's been the coolest thing. I'm actually flying to LA in a couple days to go meet him.
Yay!
So, but we're working on a thing.
Yay!
The song, but
I was already in my head. I thought if he's okay with this, y'all should just do candid pictures and video and shots and kind of make this impromptu raw footage video for it.
Yeah,
but
I want to really. It's been
as long as of course he's okay with it. But yeah, I'm assuming he is.
When that song sort of got singled out as one of the songs that people really loved, and I really it was important to me to put it on the record for a lot of reasons. But it was kind of one of these things where I was like, okay, but I really want to find a way for his side of the story to be included in this, because the song's just written from my perspective, and meanwhile he's been living his life, and he has his own side of this story that I think is a really important perspective.
Completely.
So I wanted to make sure and I let my publicist know. I was like, people can interview him, he's available, he wants to talk about it.
And yay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do that more, and he's an actor, so we're
oh my gosh, okay,
together. Yeah.
So real quick, it looks like Lisa is saying hi. She's listening in from Massachusetts. Welcome.
Hi, Lisa.
And if you have any questions or anything you want to post, let us know, Lisa. We will definitely share that. So and he's in LA. He's an actor.
Yeah.
So then, okay. So now, how did you get Indigo Girls on this?
Okay.
Like, how was it because of the story? I'm almost assuming.
I mean, I don't know is the answer because like it was during COVID, so I didn't meet them in person. Like
Okay.
my label and my label head Rachel Sage, who
I
makes
love
things
her.
happen.
Yes.
She just
Well, it's
she
funny because I
does that.
interviewed her on my personal podcast. I'm about to interview her in a couple of months when she releases some music. So yeah, she's
an
great.
artist, and she's a producer.
Yep.
And runs a label and just kind of can do anything that she wants. She just sort of decides this is she sets intentions in the world and just makes it happen. And
yes, she does.
One of her things was that she wanted to get the Indigo Girls on this record, and she made it happen. And
Go Rachel.
yeah, but none of us, like including her, we're all like we weren't expecting them to say yes because they're busy, you know.
Yes.
being legends.
Yeah, thank you for anyone who does not know. Shame on you. You'll research the Indigo Girls. You will understand. And also, too, from Massachusetts, Candace, thank you for listening in. Of course, Candace, if you have questions, you want to pop them in, let us know. So they said yes.
So they
and
said
then
yes.
so it was recorded over COVID last year.
Yeah. So
okay.
So the band, so bass, drums, keys, guitar, lead guitar, singing, all that stuff. We tracked in a studio in Nashville in 4 days. We made the whole record in 4 days.
Wow.
But all of the guest vocals. So all of the like famous people that said yes sent us their vocals from their own hometowns because of
technology
COVID.
is so amazing.
Yeah. So the Indigo Girls sent it from Atlanta, and
so who else do you have on this album?
So we have Ruthie Foster and Dara Williams and the Watson twins and Gina Chavez, and we also have my producer Mary Bragg, who's an incredible artist as well. I think that's everybody. Yeah. But
I think that's
everybody.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And that was the kind of thing where we reached out to all those people because we expected like maybe one or two of them.
Right.
To like be like, maybe I could do this. And then like all of them got back to us and we're like, oh my God.
Look at that.
So yeah, it was pretty great. But,
good for you.
But they sent in the Indigo Girls, they sent in Amy and Emily. I'm on first name basis with them.
Well, of course you are.
But they sent in they wrote the harmony parts, and it's their own kind of unique melodic thing. And the song, it gave the chorus a call and response. Speaking of call and response, it gave the chorus like a call and response that it didn't have before. It was just the response part was the whole song, and they like wrote in that part and kind of changed the entire song. So it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Just like because they
and you can now say you've collaborated pretty much on a song so with the Indigo Girls.
It kind of I kind of wonder if I owe them like some publishing or something. But,
how did Landon feel about that?
I mean, it was huge for him. Obviously,
I bet.
I mean, the thing is like, I mean, and the song is kind of about like a friend of a queer kid in the South, and wrestling with that and trying to be honest about it, and they grew up in Decatur, which is where I'm from.
That's so
it's a
crazy.
suburb of Atlanta, and so my parents are divorced, so I grew up in Decatur, in Atlanta, and then also rural Alabama, and my mom and my dad. And Landon and I knew each other from Alabama, but my other house was in Decatur.
Okay.
And that's where they're from.
Okay.
So I grew up like being a massive super fan of them, and it just felt very like.
Well, I'm proud of you for growing up being a fan of them.
They were on, but it just happened it just felt very like cathartic and
it was meant to be
kind of cosmically, yeah.
And you even mentioned one of your first onstage performances at age 11 was one of their songs. What song did you sing?
The first time I ever sang on a stage was an Indigo Girls song. It was "Power of Two," and yeah,
that makes me cry. That song is so powerful. That one, I wore that CD out and that song out, right?
Yeah. From the time I was a kid, I still have it in my car.
And you performed that one at age 11.
That was like my favorite song at the time. And they're my mom's favorite band.
That's why
so she had all the records and I listened to them all the time. And she played the guitar and sang the other harmony part.
Is this video floating around somewhere on YouTube? Because I need to see this. No.
It's so sad. I was 10 or 11. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful that you had that, especially with your mom. Yeah. And then now it comes full circle.
I know.
That's just nuts.
It's
That's
wild.
nuts, Phil. Now, is this the album you mentioned also that you have music cut on vinyl? Is this the album that's on vinyl?
Yes. The
Okay.
first time my music's ever been on vinyl.
And what
Very
was that
excited.
experience like for you? Because there's such a difference between the whole digital versus analog. We all know this,
Mm-hmm.
right? It takes a lot more to press, an album versus just being able to, especially it's digitizing has come such a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I will preface this by saying that like I'm not an engineer. We left that to Shani Gandhi in Nashville, and she did a killer job. And I'm also
Nice.
not a mastering person. We left that to Piper Payne, and she did an awesome job. But there is a difference. What I know about it is like I know about like the science of an MP3 and the science of an algorithm, which is
Right.
that you take like a sound wave and you run it through this algorithm. It's kind of like a little machine or something, and it comes out on the other end smaller and compresses it basically. And when you compress music, you sort of chop off like all the extremes. So if anything's like super loud or super soft or whatever, you sort of equalize things. So it's kind of like I'm trying to think of an example. Like when you take an image and you like shrink it and then you blow it back up and it's
Yes.
like lost some resolution.
Yes.
Kind of like that.
Perfect. Perfect analogy.
So you sort of lose like the reality of it, sort of, and like the dimension of it.
Absolutely.
Is the word for it. Like
The richness,
it's
the
hard
tones.
to like talk about like, and I'm sure all the audio engineer head people have like language for this, but
They do, and I've heard it, and
And
it
I
just
don't know
it's
it.
in one ear out the other
So-
because I just can't
but
like.
you can hear it,
Yes.
and even if you can't hear it like consciously, on some level. So what happens is when you take out information from a digital file, like your brain fills in the blanks, and your brain like yeah. So it's kind of like let's say you're singing a song and there's like that part in the chorus that is supposed to happen and the singer doesn't sing it and the whole crowd sings the line. It's like that. Like your brain is doing that. Like your brain is going, here's the
That's a
missing
good way.
information
Wow.
in the
Okay.
song, and your brain is filling it out. So your brain is working really hard. And a vinyl experience is a lot closer to the experience of just being in a room and hearing music,
That's true.
and so
It's to me the best way. I mean, like
'cause
I've
the
mentioned,
sound waves
I'm
are bigger
in my
and,
50s, so I
like,
grew up
better.
with only
Yeah.
vinyl, but it's a better sound.
So there's kind of pros and cons of both, because like a digital thing, you can it's quantity, right?
Right.
So you can have a million songs in your pocket.
Yeah.
And anyone can have them. And there is value to that. But then also and also like the type of record that we made would not have been possible without digital music and the ability to like send these files over the internet.
Correct.
But then yeah, like the whole experience of just something being on tape, on vinyl, like the just sort of the I don't know, there's something about it that it just feels different, when you hear it. And so I think like, and this is something I learned from my first producer, Billy Crockett, that, we've kind of like over perfected recordings. So, if you listen to recordings from like the 50s or 60s, people are a little bit out of tune. They're a little bit out of tune. Like the instruments, the singing, like they might be a little flat. It sounds great. It sounds like a live band,
It does. Like a
'cause
live
it is a
experience.
live band.
Yep.
And then we have kind of like perfected everything's auto-tuned. It's kind of like what we've done to photos, like everything's airbrushed. So we don't remember like what real people look like anymore, and we don't remember like what things really sound like, because we're so used to hearing like this kind of perfected version of the thing. So a thing that I learned from Billy Crockett is that there's a lot of beauty in just like the thing that really happens in the room in that moment, can be really magic. And it's sort of the imperfections, just like a human face. It's the imperfections that make the face interesting,
Yes. Look at you
So-
going. This is a deep dive. I love this because my brain's going on. My brain flashed to Jewel when her first CD came out. It was all raw
Yeah.
collection of
And
her
that's what
recording.
people responded to. People were like,
Yes.
oh, this is so real, because it was so different from
Mm-hmm.
like just the manufactured pop thing that was so popular at the time.
Yeah. And look at you knowing all that. Okay, so obviously I'm buying the album. And I was going to anyways when you said vinyl, but the plus, of course, is Indigo Girls is on it and the song Landon. Because once I read about the song, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good talk when we talk about Landon. I just already know. And so thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
and to Landon, if he's watching, if he watches later, for being so brave, and
Yeah.
because it is his story you're telling, even though it's your experience
Yeah.
with how you interacted with him,
No,
it's
yeah,
his
he had to
life.
sign off on that. Like, oh yeah,
Yes.
cool. It's fine to like tell my story to everyone. Yeah, exactly.
So
and
proud of him.
it started with a courageous act, right? Because it was the act of him coming out, and
Yeah.
that's courage.
And that's not easy.
And that's
It's not.
Like, it's courageous to be your true self. And
Despite
so,
what people will
yeah.
tell you. I mean, even when you have your best friend going, well, right? It's
Right.
hard.
It's really, really hard. And not just me, but like other people, all of the people that were important to him at the time. All of us.
Whew. Okay, so now as we go on, because you've got this brand new album, these songs, and the world is starting to finally open up. I mean, California, we're looking at hopefully by July, right? For us, I don't know, what is it in Texas? What is there an aim there?
Well, in Texas, we have
Deep
this thing
breath.
where we like deny reality. So
Okay, okay.
I think like the governor was just like, we're completely 100% open. Like COVID wasn't still happening. So we all we've been living.
You're
with
like,
that for a while. There's been people that they've been like nothing in their lives has changed for like a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And those people drive me nuts.
But I mean, do you see it like, especially in because music live performances took the hardest hit.
Yeah.
So are there venues that are going to finally open up? Do you
Yes.
have anything on the horizon possibly you'll be able to do?
I do. Like in a few days, I'm playing the first band shows I've played since like winter of 2019, and it feels weird.
I bet.
Really weird, and it feels early, and I'm not sure if it's like too soon. And I sent a message to my fans. I was like, please don't come if you're not vaccinated.
Fair enough.
I just don't want I
Fair
don't want
enough.
that on my
Yeah.
ledger, and
Right.
and a few of them wrote back. I'm like, okay, and so I don't know. It might be 5-10 people. Like I think even the people that are vaccinated are feeling like a little nervous.
They're
about
not
it,
sure
and
yet, yeah.
understandably so with all these variants, and so it's hard to say like maybe 5 people will come, but the band and I have just we had like our first rehearsals in like a year, and just the joy of being able to play.
I bet that felt so good.
We rehearsed 8 hours this week, and like we also had a separate harmony rehearsal where we rehearsed for like another 4 hours. So like we're just like, I think we're all like gearing to do it because we number one, we want to get back to like the level that you're at when you play all the time.
Yeah.
For the shows, but also like it's just so thrilling and exciting to like be able to be in a room together and playing music.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Well, you're bouncing energies off one another because as beings, not even just human beings, living, breathing, everything from plants to furry creatures to non-human human, when we are apart, we feel a disconnect. So when you're physically in the room with people, you're vibing off of that excitement, that energy, and you're healing from it. You're growing from it. So like you said, just being in the room with your band members must have been the most amazing, euphoric sort of,
yeah. And
we're back.
It's like you're with other people that speak the language and can speak it back to you. And so it's like I've been the only one speaking the language in my room by myself for like a year.
Yeah.
And now I have people to talk to. So
yay.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's thrilling. And yeah, I think you're right. I think like there's a thing that happens when you have a group of people in a room where the collective takes on a personality.
Yes.
That like wasn't there when just individuals.
Yeah.
So,
and even if you only have 5 people in the room, that's going to be, y'all are probably going to cry.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be the most amazing thing. Jill jumped in the room, by the way. She agrees with the whole vinyl versus natural real sound. Jill, thank you for connecting us and making this happen. And Lisa came on to say that she wants to know if you're going to be heading to New England.
I would like to. I've got an agent, Mary Granada. It's all on my website. So yeah.
Yes, let's do that.
We're doing it like
Let's
kind of a
put that up.
combination of things. I think Mary's booking some stuff, shooting for a New England tour, yes, like later in the year. And also we're kind of adding like backyard micro concerts just to like, your family, and like
no, that's great.
Friends, like 10 people, 20 people.
People were doing that before COVID.
Outside.
That's a great thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've done it before COVID to like 70 people in a living room, but this is like, just as many people as can safely social distance or whatever, or like just your vaccinated friends, like outside or whatever. So we're doing a few micro concerts like that along the way. So even if we can't make it to like the club in your hometown because that club is closed or whatever,
right?
Reach out to my agent because we're into like all kinds of creative touring right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And there's the website. Please stalk her. All of her socials are on there, especially hit her up. You want her in New England, you can make it happen. I say make it happen. Heck yeah. And then so we know you. And so in wrapping this up, I do want to ask, because I ask everyone this.
Yeah.
What was the biggest obstacle for you when the COVID thing happened the whole year as an artist and a person? And then what was the one thing you never expected to get out of it that became a positive thing for you?
I mean, I think the hardest thing for our industry was just the immediate income loss for me and all the people that I love who do this for a living. You know, like we just had all of our career was just like decimated overnight, and a lot of my friends had to move back in with their parents or whatever. Like they've been independent and self-sufficient, doing really well, and then just to have all that progress kind of swept away was very hard for people. For me personally, I was really lucky because I just signed like a publishing deal not too long before that, which meant that I had a publishing advance that I was living on, that I could live on.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so my touring income was a big part of my income, and that was gone, but I still had some money coming in from publishing, and it was like just enough that I didn't have to get a day job and go drive for Uber again, like I was doing before.
I drove for Lyft. I feel you.
Yeah, which normally I love, but not during COVID. And
No. I stopped
people
too.
have to do it, and people had
Yeah.
to do it, and I would have had to do that or go to the grocery store or whatever and get a job, because there were no gigs that I wanted to play, and I do have friends that continued to play because they had to, because they didn't have any other. That's like the only way that they can make a living. It's either that or working fast food, and playing music seemed a little safer, a little better, and a lot of them got COVID. And they didn't have a choice about it because they had to.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people who work fast food got it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it because I had a publishing deal with BMG, so I'm forever loyal and grateful to them. But a lot of my friends moved away, so that was really hard. And then the advance ran out in like November, so but by then we were kind of back on our feet and settled enough that it was okay. So it just gave me like a grace period where I could kind of breathe, and I knew that, I knew I wasn't going to get sick, and I knew that, we could afford health insurance, and stuff like that just like most musicians don't have.
Very true.
Yeah, and our industry is not back. We're going to be the last one that's back.
Correct.
So many venues have gone under. So many venues are just barely hanging on. So many musicians got sick. Musicians died. I mean, a lot of our like community that's not white, our community that's like differently abled, our community that is older. We lost John Prine, like right out of the gate. We lost Charlie Pride. Like, I mean, this has been a year of like incalculable losses for the music industry, starting with the human toll, and then just reverberating throughout all of it. The mental health. I mean, imagine like taking a year and not having any work come in for a year. There's no job. You can't. I mean, we can kind of like webcast and do it from home, but you can only do that if you have a following that you built over time, which I did. And it's a small following, but they got me through on Patreon, and I'm so grateful to them too. That's the other thing that helped me survive 2020.
Many artists had to do that. So good for you that you were able to survive with that.
But then what about your friends who are in a cover band?
Yeah.
And they don't have that. Or what about your friends who like are bass players or drummers, So there's just so many layers of this, or sound engineers.
Oh my gosh, you're behind the scenes crew, absolutely. The crew on tour, all of them.
Yeah,
it was decimating.
I don't think any other industry really has been hit the way that we've been hit. I really believe that. Like I think it's partially because we were really poor to begin with. And
yeah, when you're living beyond, like below paycheck to paycheck, it's a hard one sometimes. Yeah.
Hardly any of us could afford the luxury of just playing music for a living. Most of us had other gigs, and it was funny. It was this really interesting thing because like before COVID, those people were, the ones of us who could work full time were like, oh, you have a day job, kind of snobby about it. I wasn't, but that was a thing. And like after, like when COVID hit, all the people with day jobs were like the lucky ones because they had some kind of income.
The whole what was considered essential became the decision factor, and essential meaning that it helped out others, from health to food, right? We're talking medicine, food. These are the essential things, law enforcement. These are the essential things when we're all essential, but when you have to yeah, it was such a hard one. That was a really hard year.
I think
And
it
you're right,
was
it's still
so
pouring into
weird.
this year. I mean, here in California, at least because I'm in Northern California,
Mm,
you know, we've got here in Sacramento is where I'm at. We have Aftershock Festival that's in October. It looks like it's still happening, but our summer, like concerts in the park and other gigs, not happening. You know,
yeah.
we're finally opening up to where they can do performances at locations, usually restaurant style places where it's distanced. They're outside,
Right.
you're not near
Right.
them. But as far as getting together in the huge crowds, still not happening.
Yeah.
Ticket sales are now happening, but for future gigs that are happening, what, fall and winter, I think they're
Right.
scheduled.
Right.
So, you know, that puts it at 18 months
I know.
with
It's a long
nothing.
time for anybody to be out of work. But,
It's crazy. So,
Yeah.
you know, so good. So happy that you've got shows coming up.
I'm
Will they
just
be
so
listed on the
lucky.
website?
Yeah, they're on the website.
Okay,
There's just
good.
a couple of them. You know, there's like 4 shows or something in Texas, and there's like a few in Florida, and that's kind of it. Like there's just a couple, and we booked them way back when May seemed like a pretty good bet,
Gotcha. Took that chance.
and now we're like, you know, so. But we're trying to do it right. All the venues are cool. They're they do masks and distancing and stuff. So yeah, and I'm encouraging my fans to only come if they've been vaccinated.
Because you don't want that on your hands. I mean, I
Don't
go
want
for
that.
my second Pfizer dose on Cinco de Mayo, so my whole meme all day will be that's my shot.
Yeah.
You know, because and I want to get it done. I recently been hired. I'm 6 months now. I have a radio gig. Plus, I volunteer with Girls Rock Sacramento, and they're going to be doing an outdoor camp in the summer. But we all have to be vaccinated. We're going to be distanced. So
Yeah.
there's things that encouraged me to. I was waiting because I don't fall in line with. I'm not immune compromised. I'm not the elderly. I'm not. Those people needed to go first.
Sure.
I was
Yeah.
happy to wait.
Yeah.
Now, because I'm in my 50s, it was like, okay, fine.
Okay.
Once they said like 50 and over, I'm like, okay.
Well,
I should
was
go
one of
get
the
it.
earlier. I was in an earlier batch because I was volunteering, like at the COVID hub, and helping getting other people vaccinated. And so I watched a lot of people get vaccinated. So I've been on board. I got the Dolly shot, the Moderna.
Okay.
And it's a miracle. It's a miracle of science. Like, it's incredible. Everyone, if you can get it. I do have a friend who has like legit, and there are very few people. This is like a tiny percentage of the population, but actual, like, where she's had like 3 doctors tell her she can't have it.
Oh.
Yeah, but one person, like, and out of like most of us. So I don't ever want to like make assumptions about people's situation, but probably 99.9 times out of 100, if you're watching this, like, you should go get it. It's available now. It's amazing. Like, and don't do it just for you. Do it for like your neighbors, and do it for the people that are essential. That even though they're essential, they're also like people who seem to be disposable in our society. Frankly, like the people serving us, the people like nursing us, just all of these, like, and mostly, frankly, women and women of color, and in our country, who have like done the vast majority of the work of just like keeping things going.
Yeah.
And those are the families that have been affected by this. So think about them and get a shot.
And just because I know people that have their fear with it, there are people that are against vaccinations in general. I get that too. I think for me, I'm definitely pro. When you think about, I remember seeing seeing an article, but there was a story done on, want to say it's in Georgia, where there's a whole county that's predominantly Black community. They have 4 funeral homes and no hospital. Yeah. So when something goes down, them getting the care that they need is not there. Yeah. So I know I live in privilege, living where I live, that I'm a rock's throw from a clinic. Mm-hmm. I could make a call and an ambulance is here in 7 minutes tops. Mm-hmm. These are things I know that part of my duty in staying distanced, wearing the mask, getting the vaccination, because we travel, right?
Oh yeah.
That was the thing that got done us in. Even though we were not traveling to other countries, we were city and state hopping. and not checking. So you could easily hop back over and within less than 3 connections affect somebody in a county that has no hospital. And I think of that.
It's like the pee in the pool, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just keep it in one part of the pool. Like it affects everybody. And
You have the greatest analogies like all show. Thank you for all of these. The pee in the pool.
It's the pee
but
in
it's
the pool.
true.
And it's like, and we figured that out pretty quick, like the America First government of the past like 4 years was like, oh, we just need to shut down all the borders immediately, which was like, okay, yeah, sure, good start, but like the pee's already in the pool.
The pee is already in the pool.
And also I think the thing that we all learned is like we are all really, really, really connected to each other.
Completely. If anything proved it, it was this virus, because look how quickly it spread across the entire world in a matter of days and weeks.
Yeah.
It was literally every scary movie about a virus attacking people. We all know them. We've seen them all.
Yeah.
Whether we watched them or did a preview, and now it's real life.
And the thing
no
is,
joke.
Knowing that we actually are in like an ecosystem where what happens in China affects people in the US and vice versa, and like India, right? I'm thinking about India right now.
Oh my God, my heart.
And it's just like
I cry every time I see any article. My heart goes out to them. That's so horrible.
I know. And the thing is, like, though, we need to care. We need to care about what happens to other people, because we are all in this together, man. I mean, we are and we aren't, because it's different depending on your situation,
right? And it's just an accountability thing.
Pandemic for everybody, for sure,
right?
But everything affects everybody, and we just have to remember that, like, loving our neighbor is actually important. Like, shocker. Well, okay, so ending it on that note, get vaccinated if you want to see a show with Grace. I just think, right, we're in agreement. I mean, if you don't, you don't. We're not gonna anti-vax shame you. But I mean, that's not the point.
No. And go to her website. Here we go again. Follow her on her socials, on Grace. Get that album on vinyl. It'll be worth it, because I'm going to do it. And thank you so much for taking the time out. This was really great. You are super awesome, Grace. Yeah. So again, Mickey and Jolene with the Women's International Music Network live front and center podcast. We do this often. Always check back and follow us too. We're on the ticker below. And with that, I wish everyone a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here.